rest. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
My early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
But it gave my mom and me more time to plan, together.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
It is game day here in Nebraska. We got Hail Varsity going for you guys. Getting ready to fight the North Dakota Fighting Hawks, set for 2:30 today. Me and Carter, we're starting this thing out for you guys this morning, and what better way to do it with some Hail Varsity. So, Carter, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to a new day, another game here for Nebraska. Obviously, last week, a bit of a disappointment, right? I mean, everybody kind of expected Nebraska to be 1-0 coming into today, but we're back in Lincoln. Game day is in Memorial, and it's against a UND team who should be a team that Nebraska handles. But again, we kind of thought that was going to happen last week as well, and frankly, it just didn't. So I don't know. We're gonna have to see what's going to happen today. I guess we're going to kind of break down the game a little bit here, maybe talk a little bit about last week and the rest of our outlook on the season. But yeah, I'm excited for today. Yeah, I think today, I mean, it's just your chance to right the ship, just get it going in the right direction. After week 0, another devastating week 0 lost where close game, you lose by 3 points, but you got to turn this thing around. You can't have another slow start to the season where you're just tripping over yourselves. Because even last year, I don't know if you remember that Fordham game,
It was kind of that rebound after Illinois, but we still didn't quite come out firing off right away. For this game, I just want to see some cohesiveness on our offense and defense. Just try to fix as much as we can. That's just a huge jump from week 0 to week 1. It's where you see a lot of improvement. I mean, that's really all I'm looking for today.
Yeah, I mean, last week, I kind of talked about this throughout the week. I think everybody did. The one thing that was very surprising is I thought if anything came out slow for Nebraska or anything that was going to look bad initially was going to be the offense, because that's where we had all the new pieces for the most part. And obviously offense requires a little bit more chemistry and a little bit more time to mesh usually. New offensive coordinator, new wide receivers coach, everything like that. But it was the offense that came out firing on all cylinders, and it was the defense that struggled, which was really surprising. And, it's kind of one of those things with defense where obviously the defense still plays as a team, but it's something that you really don't think should have to really mesh. You shouldn't really need all those guys to play together for a while, because they're all still just kind of playing more as again, it's still a team game, but they're a lot more individualistic in it, because they're not sharing the ball like an offense does. They don't have to protect each other, but they would just looked bad. There was way too many open gaps. The defensive line especially was very disappointing. Not only could they not stop the run, but Ryan Helinski for Northwestern he's not an all Big Ten quarterback by any means, but he looked like one against Nebraska. And so they got to put some pressure on the quarterback today. And they got to just really dominate the line of scrimmage, especially against an FCS opponent who we should have superior athletes over. And UND, I can speak from personal knowledge, is not usually by any means a powerhouse in the FCS either. So not only is it a lower opponent, just FBS to FCS, but UND is also a team who is kind of little brother in their own state, and it's definitely a game that Nebraska has to win by quite a bit.
Yeah, and like you said, we got to win the trenches in this game. If I see us getting pushed around against this North Dakota team, that just spells doom for the rest of the season. If you can't figure out a way to push these guys, because like you said, last week it was kind of disappointing. We didn't see that D line with O'Shawn Mathis, Caleb Tanner, Garrett Nelson. We thought we're going to get some pass rush in there, and maybe Northwestern's offensive line is just that good. We'll find out as the games come by. But like you said, man, what was his completion rating? It was like 80 or 90%. It was something absurd for Ryan Helinski. He looked like he had all day out there. So we got to figure that out. Hopefully we get some pass rush. Those guys, Garrett Nelson, I'll give him a little bit of slack. He had a tough assignment. He was going up against that left tackle all game. That's obviously probably a first-round NFL pick. So maybe you cut him a little bit of slack. But like you said, I think Colton Feast played okay out of those guys, but didn't see much from Caleb Tanner or O'Shawn Mathis. You kind of hope they figure that out a little bit, and that linebacker play cleans up a little bit too.
Yeah, Nebraska had 0 sacks against Northwestern, which obviously
I don't even know if we touched him. Like, I'm not even kidding.
I don't know if he ever hit the turf. So it's that obviously has to change. You're not going to win any football games if you don't at least put a little bit of pressure on the quarterback. And the run defense also was just atrocious. Evan Hull and Cam Porter, both of Northwestern starting running backs, both averaged nearly 5 yards or over 5 yards a carry. Evan Hull at 5.4, Porter at 4.9. They carried the ball 47 times as a team for 214 yards. So the run defense has to shore up, and open field tackling. That was another big complaint all week long from Husker fans and just media in general. Nebraska got quite a bit of national attention with that game, and not particularly good national attention either, because of the way that they played. And of course, it was one of the only games on. It's week 0, so everybody noticed. Open field tackling has to be better. We've got 2 of the better linebackers in probably the Big Ten and the nation. Luke Reimer and Nick Henrich should be one of the better cores that is around, but they frankly just didn't look like it. There's missed tackles in the backfield. There's missed tackles second level, third level. It didn't really matter. And then when you have that bad open field tackling, you have the run game just pounding down your throat, then that kind of causes bad pass defense as well, because we saw in that one touchdown play, who was the safety that was on it? I think it was Buford.
Yeah, it was Buford.
When he had to come up, he was coming up because he had to play the run, because
because
nobody else could stop the run. So he had to come out to play the run, and then obviously a guy gets behind him, and it's a wide open touchdown, and everybody kind of goes, well, what's he doing? Well, he's trying to make up for the errors that the front line's making, and so that's something that without a doubt has to be better today.
Yeah, I do get worried about that. Especially with that defense, you think, okay, Shenander, 5-year. I thought we were going to honestly be leaning on the defense a lot, like what you were saying. New offensive coordinator, Scott Frost taking a CEO role. Everything's changing. New quarterback. How many players on offense transfers? About at least all the receivers out there that we're watching. Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, Trey Palmer. I mean, Omar Manning, we didn't really see get any touches, but as far as wide receivers go and everything on offense, it's just all new guys. Defense, I thought we're going to be solid, even with the transfers. But we might really have to lean on this offense a lot more early on than I thought, especially if that D-line can't figure out a way to piece it together. Because I think a lot of that missed tackling, too, is like when that A gap becomes 3 gaps wide because you're just getting blown off the ball that bad, it just makes those angles so much harder. You're not playing downhill to fill your gap. You're filling just a massive void at that point. So you got to work together on that. And I don't know what Shenander's going to have to get those guys to do in practice. Maybe get a little more creative scheming, because I didn't really see any blitz packages either. I don't know if we were just worried about them getting over top because Helinski was playing so good, but we just never really threw him any wrenches. It felt like we just kept it very vanilla on defense.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the reasoning for that was the fact that they were just kind of running all over us, so they didn't want to blitz and then just run past the ball carrier. But at the same time, you're right. They had to change it up because obviously something wasn't working. I will give them credit. At one point, they did have them stop pretty well for the most part. Of course, we scored twice in the third quarter, and at that time, Northwestern had 2 drives in a row that I believe had stalled, either a fumble and a punt, I think. And for whatever reason, Nebraska thought it would be a good idea to do an onside kick, and then after that, the game was pretty much over after Northwestern scored. Nebraska completely stalled on offense, and Northwestern didn't look back. They scored whatever it was, 14 unanswered points, and Nebraska just could never really recover from it. I will give a little bit of slack to the offense. I know, and Casey Thompson in particular, I think it was very big that Travis Vokalek went out of the game.
Yeah.
You could tell early on that Casey Thompson really liked him, had a lot of chemistry with him. Whenever he kind of needed that dump down or the guy that was just going to be open in the middle of the field, Vokalek was there. And to be quite honest, we don't have a lot of depth at tight end right now. I mean,
no, I thought I'd see Chancellor Brewington out there, but we didn't see him out there. It was just after Vokalek just kind of went away from it completely. It felt like.
Yeah, and I understand it to a point, going away from the tight ends, because they're again, like, there isn't just a ton of depth out there. Brewington is obviously a very, very good blocker.
Yeah.
I don't know how great he is as a kind of like a number 1 receiving option as a tight end. I believe it was Nate Borkacher that was out there quite a bit at tight end, and I know he's I think he's a junior, and he was initially a walk-on, hasn't really seen the field a lot yet. And you could tell that he was new and hadn't really seen a whole lot of the field. So we'll see if they can get that sorted out. The injury update on Vokalek, I think, was that he was day-to-day, and they're not really sure if he was going to be on the field today. I haven't seen any updates so far this morning on if he's playing for sure today or not. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I know Omar Manning was back at practice this week, so maybe we'll see some of him today. Speaking of the receivers, the drops also have to stop. I mean, there was a lot of drop passes. 2 of them pretty much resulted in interceptions, whether I guess the one, whether you want to call it a drop or he just didn't really make an attempt for the ball. But either way, the drops and just the lack of hands in attacking the ball has to get better today. It was pretty decent in the first half, but in the second half, once Nebraska kind of lost some of their momentum, it just seemed like the receivers lost their hands as well. And I mean, Casey Thompson, you look at the box score, you might see 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and think that that's his fault. But I really don't think either of the interceptions was his fault.
Scratch him.
The first one was probably he probably should have been picked off on the play right before on his first interception, because that was a poor throw on his first one. That one pretty much right in the D-back's hands, and he just dropped it. That one was very dangerous. But the second pass that actually was picked off, just again, just doesn't really make a great attempt at the ball, and it kind of just goes right to the D-back, and that's that. And then of course the second one ends the game right off the hands. Wasn't the best thrown ball in the world, but in the end, you got to just start making catches. That's the only way that we're gonna have a chance as the season goes forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're saying, it was interesting to see so many drop balls. I think just probably a little bit of jitters, because I think Trey Palmer had a couple like first quarter early where he had 2. One was like real close to the end zone, dropped that one. We ended up getting the touchdown that drive anyways, but yeah, quite a few drop balls, which is weird. I will say, out of all the wide receivers out there, it is week 0, so we don't know yet, but it looks like Isaiah Garcia Castaneda might be that number 1 guy. It might not be Trey Palmer that we're thinking, but those 2 looked pretty good. Gonna be curious if we see Omar Manning at all today. This depth chart, I don't know if you looked at it. It's huge. It's basically for the running backs, everyone's on there. You got Anthony Grant, AJ Allen, Gabe Irvin Jr., Ramir Johnson, and Yant. So you got everyone out there. They're basically just we're gonna get a look to see just about everyone today if things bode well. Now, I don't know. Is there any real chance that we lose this game in your head?
No, I don't think there's a real chance that we lose the game. I want to. I guess I am going to say that, although it really does pay me to say it because I really don't know if there's any games anymore that you can just say Nebraska's not going to lose this game. But no, they definitely should not lose this game. I mean, North Dakota, again, FCS opponents and a team in the FCS that's not great. I mean, you know that they're not a team that has a whole lot to worry about when they're, their projected roster or whatever on ESPN like has nothing on it.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely worried about the game today. I know I keep saying this, but I keep forgetting to check if they actually announced it yet. As of like a week ago, they hadn't announced their starting quarterback yet. So that's, definitely something to kind of be aware of. Whoever they start probably is going to be super comfortable because they were still trying to make a decision during game week. So hopefully, that kind of plays to Nebraska's advantage. Looking at their roster for quarterbacks, they have 3 freshmen and 2 juniors. I'm assuming it's probably going to be one of the juniors that starts, but you never know. It could be one of the freshmen. So we'll see who North Dakota decides to throw it on the field. But it's definitely curious to kind of see. Do I think they'll win? Yes, absolutely. How much they win by, that's probably the bigger question. Because Nebraska fans, they need a blowout today. You're not gonna learn a whole lot about the team today in terms of positives. That's the one bad thing about playing these FCS opponents and these kind of lower level teams is usually there's not really anything good to learn in these games. It's usually all bad that you learn because it's a team that again Nebraska should beat. They should beat by a lot. So Nebraska plays really well. They win by 30 points. Great. It's fun. Right. It's a fun game. Yeah, let's go. But the line is 30 points. Everybody expects you to win by 30 points. So you should absolutely win by 30 points. If Nebraska struggles at all in this one, I mean, the sky's going to fall. If it's probably within 2 possessions at halftime or later at any point in the game, I mean, people are going to lose their minds. And they kind of already lost their minds already, which I will say people overreact a bit. I mean, we all kind of do it for fun at the beginning to the Northwestern game. But the people who are still, kind of just think that the sky is falling because Nebraska lost their season opener. You need to relax a little bit. I mean, listen, it was week 0. Nobody else has hardly even played any games. This Northwestern team isn't terrible. They're not as bad as they were last year. Do I still think Nebraska was the better team? Should they have won the game? Yes. But Northwestern outplayed them for a good portion of that game last week. Yes, we had a lot of momentum in the third, kicked the onside kick, and it ends up going bad, and the game kind of goes downhill from there. But am I wrong in saying that Northwestern did outplay Nebraska for a good portion of that game, dominating the line of scrimmage, running it down their throat and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to look at their game plan with Evan Hull and Cam Porter. I mean, they just did what they needed to do. They just waited for kind of the Nebraska turnovers. We'll stick to the system. You could tell early on they weren't really risking those, like if it was 3rd and short, they weren't going to go for the 4th down. They were 4th and short, they were going to go for it. They were just going to be safe, conservative. And they just had the better game plan. Pat Fitzgerald, give him credit. It's hard to recruit up there, but he always manages to get a line that seems to kind of flip-flop every other year. But he gets guys up there, and the game plan. They're just going to run it out. You play downhill. I know Ryan Helinski threw a lot, but you look at all his passes, was anything really past 25 yards except for that one touchdown? All short, underneath, super simple offense, but they just execute it at a really high level. So if you're not ready for it, it can spell disaster. And unfortunately for Nebraska, you just keep looking down the road. You got Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. All those teams are kind of like Northwestern, a little bit different philosophy, but they're just going to run it at you until you can't prevent it anymore. So you really hope this North Dakota game got to fix that D line. Obviously, you're not going to learn a lot, even if we look elite out there, but you better look elite. You got to come into this thing dominating, and then Georgia Southern next game, you got to turn around, same thing, because then you're going to find out something about yourself when you're playing Oklahoma. But if you guys want to text in here, you can hit up the Starter Hammond text line because we were going all the way up through this hour here. So hit up 402-464-5685. We're just talking about the game pregame. Any comments you got, just let us know. You can also call in Honda of Lincoln hotline, 402-464-5685. Me and Carter will be here, like I said, for the rest of the hour, just kind of previewing this game. But what I did want to ask you, when it comes to these games, what's the biggest thing you're looking for this Nebraska team going up against North Dakota?
They need to be dominant, if nothing else. That's probably about the best way I can put it. I don't really know what to say to look for because, like I said, there's not a whole lot that you're going to learn about yourself and against a team like North Dakota. If anything, you're going to learn some negatives. But I mean, the offensive line and defensive line, they need to dominate the trenches today, without a doubt. That's something that obviously they did not do against Northwestern. So I'd like to see them, do that today. Mm-hmm. I don't think, as far as I know, North Dakota doesn't have any, big time linemen at defense or offense.
Their linemen are actually pretty heavy. I know I was looking at their roster a little bit. I think they've got like a running back. I think it's number 7. I forgot his name. He's real short. I think he's only like 5'10". But he's pretty quick. And their O-line, pretty solid actually in terms of size. They're a little bigger than you think. They're all 300 plus pounds, which is pretty impressive for a school like that. And they like gadget plays. Their first game, I know they had 2 gadget plays like in the first half. So if you're Nebraska, can't be fooled. One of them was 2 passes in the one play where the quarterback hands it off and then it gets thrown back to the quarterback and then the quarterback throws it again. So they're going to get creative with that, especially playing at Nebraska. This is going to be their biggest game all year. They're never going to get close to playing in front of a stadium with around 80, 90,000 fans. So they're going to be ready to throw some weird things at Nebraska. That's probably my biggest fear is I don't want to be caught just with getting caught being undisciplined, because that's how they're going to beat us if they're going to do anything.
Yeah. Keeping that in mind, that is a really good point, because that's something that Nebraska has struggled with over the past few years is discipline on the trick plays and the gadget plays. So yes, one way that's, again, probably any team would do this against, Nebraska or another FBS opponent, being kind of the small dog going up against the big dog, if you can really even call Nebraska a big dog anymore. But, kind of playing up a division, usually you got to pull something out of the hat, right? Because they're not just going to go out there and beat Nebraska, like our athletes versus your athletes. Yeah. That's just not going to happen. But yeah, so we'll see. Can Nebraska stay disciplined? Can they dominate the line of scrimmage? There's definitely still things to watch today. But again, like I said, it just makes me. I'm going to try to enjoy the game as much as possible today, but it's just tough because you're just not going to. Anything that goes bad is just going to be like a complete negative today, because everybody thinks that they should play an absolute perfect game, which that's never going to happen. No team's ever going to play a perfect game. But if they turn the ball over a couple times, if it's a little closer than is comfortable early on in the game, it's just gonna be kind of a bad feeling for the rest of the game. And Memorial, I hope it's rocking today. It's always rocking. The fans turn out no matter what. I do have to say it's probably a good thing that the game's sold out before the Northwestern game, at least these first few, because I'm not entirely convinced that this one would have been sold out today, had it not been already. If Nebraska lost to Northwestern, people knew that, but it's still a home opener, and kind of going back to Nebraska's schedule and just kind of taking a little bit of a look ahead here before we go to break. You kind of mentioned it earlier. The defensive line and the run defense is obviously number one, and they got to figure that out. Playing in the Big Ten West, that's just how the Big Ten West plays. It's very downhill, smash mouth football. Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, you get all those teams on the schedule who are going to just line up their teams, and they're going to say, we're going to run the ball up the middle at you every single time, and you come out here and stop us. And so if Nebraska can't go out there and stop it, it's going to be a long season in the Big Ten West. And obviously next 2 games, North Dakota, Georgia Southern, obviously we're kind of trying to focus on today with North Dakota, but those 2 games that Nebraska absolutely should win. And if they win those 2 games, get back on track a little bit. And then you got Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is one of those games where obviously they're ranked 9th in the nation in the preseason poll. We'll see where they're at come, a couple weeks from now. But it's a game where even if Nebraska, doesn't win it, it's a good opportunity to kind of show the fans that this team can still play well. They can still hang with the top teams, because last year, obviously, it was a lot of heartbreak, but it was also a lot of positives with how well they played up against the big time teams. And that's why a lot of people thought that they had an opportunity to go, 8-4, 9-3 this year. But then they opened the season with a loss to Northwestern, and those opinions changed quite a bit. So if they play Oklahoma close, or even somehow figure out a way to beat them, it's a new season. It's a new day for Frost. Obviously, people are not too happy with him right now, and probably talk about that a little bit as the hour goes on and as the day goes on. But yeah, that's just kind of some things to keep an eye out for. We'll probably throw to break really quick. We'll be back in a couple minutes for some more Nebraska football talk again while we're on break. Or when we come back, feel free to text in at the Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685, or you can also call in at the Honda of Lincoln hotline 402-464-5685. Karter Longie and Harrison Arens with you here for pregame. We also got a couple hours of pregame coming up at 12 from Tipsy Tina with all the other guys here at the Ticket. So make sure you stick around. It's going to be a great day for football here in Nebraska. We'll be right back here at 93.7 The Ticket.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club or space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? No, forget that. How about a margarita club? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge and join the best club in town. 10 flavors of margaritas like Maui Wowie, burnt pineapple, and mango tango. Try all 10 of them and receive your own souvenir margarita glass. Make it your new Monday night tradition. $4 margaritas and $4 taco baskets. Grab the crew and head on over Monday nights or any night. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation.
In August 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Bridget Floyd and other family members established the George Floyd Memorial Foundation in support of the Black community.
It's going to take more than just us as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to make a change.
Fight for racial justice for the Black community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People Seeding Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. The education assistance I received made it possible for me to be the first person in my family to go to school and graduate debt-free. That education helped get me to the first day at my dream job, a job that I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job, plus the other benefits possible from the Army National Guard, helped me become a first-time homeowner. Also, part of my role as a National Guard soldier means I know that I can be one of the first to respond and help my community if disaster ever strikes. I'm extremely proud that I get to serve my community, and that first step I took by joining the Army National Guard has made all the difference in my life. Talk to your local recruiter or visit nationalguard.com to find out what firsts are available to you in the Army National Guard.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
My early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
But it gave my mom and me more time to plan together.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
I wanted to quit for so long, but I didn't know where to start.
I was afraid of what people would think, but then I found the right support to start my recovery journey. 1 in 14 Americans reports experiencing a substance use disorder, a treatable medical condition. Treatment can take many forms, so there are a variety of options to explore and find the one that works best for you. Recovery from drug addiction is possible.
Paid for by the CDC, sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Let's do it. Let's get away. Let's go outside, cast a line, and reel in good times with our family and friends. Get a little peace, quiet, and relaxation, and make some memories that will last a lifetime. Let's do it. Let's Fish Nebraska. Start planning your fishing trip today at letsfishnebraska.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into the Husker Pregame Show with Harrison Arens and Karter Longie. We're going to be going all the way up here for the rest of the hour, so we got about half an hour left. If you guys want to chime in here, you can hit up the Sartor Heyman text line. That's 402-464-5685. We can take calls as well. Honda of Lincoln Hotline, same number, 402-464-5685. We're just trying to break down this Nebraska team, what North Dakota is going to look like, what can we even get out of a game like North Dakota, and what does Scott Frost's seat look like if things continue to go south for this team? We're just going to keep breaking it down. But like I said, feel free to chime in. We do got one right here. CJ says, I'm going against the spread. Have a hard time trusting Frost and his decision-making. And then I think, Karter, you informed me over the break. What was it, 30.5 right now?
Yeah, 30.5.
Yeah, 30.5. So, I mean, honestly, games like this, I just don't even touch them. I don't want to ever bet on spreads like this because you don't know. They might have the third, second string in there so early, and then you're betting on players you don't even really know. But yeah, I can feel the frustration with you don't trust Frost because, I mean, year 5, excuses are pretty much gone. The only thing that's been consistent so far through this losing has been Scott Frost. It's just a hard read at this point. Everything was super close last year, so you thought you had some confidence, but you kind of crapped the bed again with Northwestern. Another week 0 disappointing game. It just feels like under Scott Frost, we have never been able to get momentum on our side, and it's been such a statistically anomaly of a team. Like, everything is bizarre. We have the longest record for most losses within one score. I think it's by a couple games now, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. There's so many teams with this, like, things with this team that are just absurd. And unfortunately, Scott Frost has been the center of all that.
Yeah, no, did you see Frost's quote this year when, he was talking about UND and said that they lost a lot of close games last year? I don't know how anybody does that. It was kind of funny. He's trying to poke some fun at himself, but I think at the same time, some Nebraska fans were kind of like a little upset with that just because.
It's not funny anymore.
Yeah, like it's not. It really isn't funny anymore. I think they're, what are they, 5-21 or something like that in the last however many 26 games that are one possession or something. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's bad. That's about the only way you can put it. It's very bad. They just can't close games ever.
Yeah.
I know last year's schedule was tough and they played a lot of teams close, but this year the schedule is not nearly as hard. I know I've kind of been one of those people who say that the crowd that says Nebraska has such an easy schedule. I wouldn't quite say that because everybody out there needs to realize that all those other teams on Nebraska's schedule look at their schedule, and when they're checking off wins, every single one of them checks Nebraska as a win.
Yeah.
Because Nebraska, frankly, isn't good. They're just not a good team, or they haven't been as of late. They've got some talent this year. They've had talent in past years, but in terms of winning football games, they do not qualify as a good team. So I would say they have a favorable schedule. Yes, it's definitely a better looking schedule than last year. No Ohio State, stuff like that. No Michigan State, but it's still the Big Ten. Nebraska still has a difficult schedule in front of them. Like I think Harrison mentioned it earlier, Purdue looks better than we kind of expected. Illinois looks better than we expected. Everybody else is getting better except for Nebraska. It's been for years and years this is the year, right? This is
Yeah.
the year. And this year, I think everybody really thought probably the most
Yeah.
out of the past few that this was the year. Nebraska, they weren't going to win 11, 12 games and go to the college football playoff or anything like that. But in terms of being this is the year, I think a lot of people thought they had potential to win 7, 8, maybe 9 games, maybe win the Big Ten West, depending on how good they actually ended up being. But they lost to Northwestern in the season opener, and now a lot of people's perspective has changed quite a bit. So I don't know. We're going to see how the season plays out. I try not to look ahead too much and speculate after just one game, but that's literally all we have to talk about right now. And this is a pregame show where we just talk about Nebraska football for a full hour. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. Just kind of looking ahead. Again, North Dakota, Georgia Southern have to be wins. Oklahoma, we'll see how that goes. If they lose to Oklahoma, which obviously Oklahoma's
real possibility.
It's real possibility. They should be 2-2 going into their stretch of Indiana, Rutgers, Purdue, Illinois, right before that last 4 games of the year.
Yeah,
if they can,
we haven't beat a single one of those teams on the rest of that schedule. They all have the last win on us, even Indiana.
Yeah, see, and that has to change this year. I mean, Indiana, Rutgers, Purdue, Illinois. At the minimum,
I guess Rutgers. We beat Rutgers.
Yeah, at the minimum, we had to win 2 games out of that slate. Really, preferably, you probably like to see them win 3. That put them at 5 wins. If they win 3 out of those 4, that puts them at 5.
Mm-hmm.
But then they still have to beat one of those kind of last, big 4 at the end of the season, and it already looks just really gloomy in terms of Nebraska getting a bowl bid. It could be however many years in a row it's been now that they haven't gone bowling. We might see another one here because the way that the schedule lines up now, and after seeing Nebraska start out the year, Northwestern had to be an automatic win. It had to be one that you could just check off the schedule as a win. They should have been 3-0 going to Oklahoma, and then you probably feel more confident about them picking up some more wins there in that next little stretch after the Oklahoma game. But now they lose that first game. I'm having trouble finding the 6th win on the schedule.
I know. I'm the same way. That's what I'm saying. After that Northwestern game, not only did I have to subtract the win that I thought we were going to have, I completely started looking at the schedule different. I know it was week 1, but that D line was so weird over the summer. It went from a weak spot to all of a sudden these transfers. I'm like, okay, now this is positive. And then after that game, I'm like, we're back to a weak spot. Now I'm really concerned again about the D line. So after that, it's like, boy, do I really think we're going to beat Illinois now? I don't know. Brett Palima, you know what he's going to do. He's going to.
Well, actually, last year they didn't know what he was going to do.
That's true. They didn't know. But he's going to run it at you, and you have to be ready. And with this D line, we won't know for 2 games, 3 games after Oklahoma if it's actually improved or not. Well, we could find out early if we're really bad, but I'd be blown away if Georgia and Southern or North Dakota found a way to push them. But there's so many things that scare me. Like you said, those last 4 games of the season, the more I look at this schedule, the more that just looks like the gray cloud that just kind of ends the season. Just puts a gloomy cast over the summer on another disappointing Husker football season. I hope they can change it, but Wisconsin, we haven't beat them forever. Iowa, we still got Minnesota in there. That's another one that I feel really bad about. It's just
yeah, and looking at the schedule at the beginning of the year with a positive outlook and thinking that Nebraska would be quite a bit better this year than and again trying to be positive and trying to, of course, every football fan does this. I was trying to find wins on the schedule at the beginning of the year, right?
Yep.
And I actually didn't have that much trouble doing it. I mean, there was a lot of those games that I could look at and say, I realistically think that Nebraska wins that game. Like Indiana, I pretty much check as a win. Rutgers, I checked it as a win. Illinois, I thought was probably going to be a win. I knew Illinois' play style isn't great for the way Nebraska plays, but I still thought it would be a win. Minnesota always kind of scares me a little bit just because Tanner Morgan seems to be Superman when he plays Nebraska. Oh, yeah. But in terms of roster v. roster, I thought Nebraska probably had a good chance to beat them. Even Wisconsin coming to Memorial, you never really know. Is Graham Mertz going to have a good year this year? We have no idea. Obviously, they're going to have one of the best running backs rooms in all of college football, which, again, now looks really bad for Nebraska. And then Iowa, of course, as well.
For Nebraska.
You never know.
Terrifying.
But yeah, like when I remember at the beginning of the season when I looked at the schedule, the only game that I looked at and said I don't think Nebraska has a chance was Michigan. I thought going to Michigan, I thought that was the only one where I was like, just write that one as a loss. But all the other ones, obviously, I think I had them 8-4. But obviously there were some other ones that you look at and you say, okay, they probably lose a couple of these. But all the games in general, before actually predicting a win-loss record, I thought that it was like Nebraska has a realistic opportunity to like compete in this game and possibly win this game. But now I go through and it's a lot harder to find those games now. It's just different.
Yeah, and like you said, if you just kind of look around the Big Ten, even if you just want to look at Big Ten West, you see everyone around you is getting better. You look at rosters, you kind of know who the man is too on their teams. I mean, just Illinois, they got Chase Brown. He looks really good. Northwestern, like we said, you got Evan Hull and Cam Porter. There's another two really great running backs. And it just feels like every team continues to find their identity with these coaches as the years go on. And we're in year 5, and we still don't know what we're trying to be on offense. Meanwhile, Brett Bielema, year 2 with Illinois. I mean, if you're an Illinois fan, I mean, those guys are ecstatic over there. I mean, given they're probably not looking to be a powerhouse by any means, but there's progress being had after being such a losing program for so long. They can see progress, and it's only year 2. Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald, he's a little bit weird. He's a bit of an anomaly. It's kind of the flip-flop. I don't know. Maybe this year is another year where Northwestern is really good. I think that is a chance. Northwestern could actually just be a legit team this year. They didn't quite look like it. I think there'll be a okay team, but
I mean, I haven't looked at their schedule or anything, but if you ask me, just kind of blindly not looking at their schedule, how many games they win this year, especially after beating Nebraska, I'd say probably 4. I'm assuming they have a couple of non-cons that are going to be games that they should win. That puts them probably at 2 or 3. But I mean, after that, I don't really see them beating a whole lot of other Big Ten opponents other than Nebraska.
Yeah, I'd put their ceiling for going bowling. I think that 6 wins.
Yeah, I think it's definitely potential. But if you told me to pick a number, I'd probably say 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're that great of a team. I think that Nebraska is probably not that great of a team either. What we'll kind of see. I mean, I hate to write them off this early, but it's kind of been. I think that's something that some people aren't talking enough about. It's what on earth happened in Nebraska? Why did they lose to this Northwestern team that's not very good? What if Nebraska's just not good? I mean, that's a real possibility. I mean, yeah, we were in every game last year, but we still won 3 games. Like, we were not some team that was going bowling last year. And it's not like we won 6 games, and the 6 games we lost were against ranked opponents, and we lost really close. We lost 9 games.
Yeah.
I think that's something that people forget a lot. We lost 9 games last year. So, I mean, we lost 1 this year, 8 more to go, right? If we want to match our record from last year, I think they'll definitely be better. And like I said, I was, pretty positive coming into the season, but first game just wasn't a great look to start things out, but there's still chances to correct it. It's not like the season's completely over. But
starts today at 2:30.
But a lot of it's going to rely on in a few weeks from now, Oklahoma coming up. So before we go to our second break, and then we'll come back and try and preview this game a little bit more. I have to ask the question. October 1st. That's the day that Scott Frost's buyout goes down. What do you think has to happen from the next 4 games? North Dakota, Georgia Southern, Oklahoma, Indiana, all at home. What does Nebraska have to do in those next 4 for Scott Frost to not be fired after October 1st?
Not to be fired? Obviously you got to win your games today against North Dakota. You got to beat Georgia. If you drop one of those, unless you find a way to rattle off and beat Oklahoma and Indiana after, which, let's be honest, if you lose to one of those schools, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening.
So I'd imagine you're going to probably win those games. If I want to keep Scott Frost, you got to. I mean, I'm gonna be all right if you lose to Oklahoma. I'll be honest, I just think they're a better team. If you find a way to drop one to Indiana, though, again, he wasn't there for the first one, but I mean, if Nebraska football has 2 back-to-back losses versus Indiana, that doesn't bode well. That's probably the point where I'm looking at it, where it's like, we cannot afford to lose those games. If you have Indiana on your schedule, that is a must win, because there's probably only a couple teams all throughout the Big Ten that you'd play, and you're looking at Northwestern and Indiana.
Yeah, so that'll be 5 games into the season at that point after October 1st. If he's sub 500, however those losses come, I think he has to be gone.
Oh yeah.
Even if for some crazy reason, if your 2 wins were Oklahoma and Indiana, it obviously would still be gone, because I mean, no matter which way you look at it, he has to win at least 3 games before that date. And of course, if he gets 4, then we're having a completely different conversation. If they're 4-1 going into Rutgers, then it's his seat probably cools down a little bit, because that means they beat Oklahoma and Indiana. But even in terms of getting to that record, if they are 3-2 with losses to Northwestern and Oklahoma, I still think it's going to be important in the way that he loses. Is the Oklahoma game close? Was it his fault that we kind of lose? Is it a bad play call? Is it a bad decision, like the onside kick?
Yeah.
Is it that kind of thing, or is it just Nebraska got outplayed by a better team? Indiana, did do they show that they're a better team than Indiana, or do they just squeak it out at the end of the game? Those are definitely things that I think Trev Alberts and whoever else is making those decisions are going to take into account. And if they are 3-2, no matter how the wins came, I think they probably not fire him right there. But I think it's definitely going to be a game-to-game basis. I mean, the Northwestern loss already put it in jeopardy, and his seat's very, very warm. It's very warm.
Okay.
So
real quick before we go to break, don't need a long-winded answer. Hypothetical. We don't know what's going to happen. Urban Meyer, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. You take it, right?
No. Yeah. You're out of your mind if you don't want Urban Meyer to come coach Nebraska. That's all I'm going to say. We're coming up on 11:45, so we'll throw it to break really quick. When we come back, maybe we'll get into the Urban Meyer thing a little bit more, talk a little bit more coaching, but also found some game notes for the UND game, so we'll probably talk about those a little bit and get you ready for game day. Of course, we got more pregame coming up at 12 p.m. from Tipsy Tina's with all the other crew here from the Tickets, so make sure you stick around all day long. Lots of great stuff coming. Nebraska versus North Dakota, 2:30 p.m. Let's get ready to go. Stick around here at 93.7 The Ticket.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Into the building for the first time after the shooting. It was crippling, but it had to be preserved.
In response to the Pulse nightclub shooting that affected the LGBTQ community, Barbara Poma, owner of Pulse, founded the One Pulse Foundation to honor Pulse victims and survivors.
If you're an ally of this community, speak out. There are more of us together than apart. It is the power of love in its rawest form.
Join the fight for LGBTQ acceptance. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza. The big one. All the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend.
Hey, you got any gum?
Yeah, check my backpack.
What's this?
Oh, that's naloxone. It can reverse an opioid overdose. I decided to always keep it on me after my friend almost died. It saved his life.
I'm so sorry. That makes me want to have it with me too.
You totally should. Check the pharmacy. It was actually really easy to get and it's easy to use.
I definitely will. Thanks.
Paid for by the CDC. Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into the first of three Husker pregame shows with Karter Longie and Harrison Arens. We got a little bit of time here, about 5 minutes. We're just going to keep breaking down what we might see, maybe a little bit as well on possibilities of if things really do go south, is Urban Meyer the guy that actually wants to come down here and coach Nebraska football? We kind of talked about it. I think, Karter, you're kind of with me. If that was a real possibility, I think you'd have to take him.
Yeah, no, I mean, anybody who's, kind of worried about the things, the reports about Urban Meyer, his times with pretty much any of the teams that he's been with, whether it's Florida or Ohio State or the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, yes, he's said some things and done some things that probably aren't of the highest character, to put it nicely. But it's not like Urban Meyer's a criminal. I mean, he hasn't done anything like egregiously bad. And for Nebraska fans that say they want to win so bad, if you want a coach who without a doubt is going to come here and win, that's Urban Meyer. I mean, he obviously the NFL's little run wasn't the greatest success story, but in college football, that guy can absolutely coach. I mean, he won at Florida. He comes to Ohio State and completely turns their program around.
Turns it into a dynasty that's still going today.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's wherever he goes, he just wins. So, I mean, if you want a guy that's going to come in here and win, you want a sure bet. I know he's not a former Husker player. I know he's not a former Husker whatever, but I mean, just let them hire somebody that's just going to come win. Just get a proven winner. I mean, obviously Scott Frost did win at UCF, but it was a group of 5 school. It's a little different. So it's in Florida. I mean, it's a completely different kind of atmosphere and environment, however you want to put it. It's not Nebraska by any means, but Urban Meyer, like I said, won at Florida. That's Power 5, program. Ohio State, Power 5, Big Ten program. Get a guy that can come win. I mean, I know Scott Frost hasn't been fired yet, and who knows, Urban Meyer would even want the job. But if he wants the job, if you have the job to offer, there's absolutely no reason on earth that Urban Meyer shouldn't be the next head coach at Nebraska if he wants it.
Yeah, and did you read that article where Urban Meyer was like kind of defending the onside kick?
I didn't
for
know.
Scott. Yeah, he that's kind of where I feel like a lot of this buzz is coming for Urban Meyer. Because he essentially said, like, defending that onside kick, which I think most people would describe as idiotic. Yep. A lot of people didn't like it. But he was like, there's basically 3 moves you make as a coach that are basically like win the game moves, and you get 3 of them. And he's like, the first one, it's like a risky play, another risky play, and then the third one, that's like your checkmate. And he's like, that was Scott Frost's checkmate, was that onside kick. He also said, I probably wouldn't have done it. But he was like breaking down the logic behind it. He's like, as a coach, you make 3 of those plays every game. At least he does, Urban Meyer. That's what he likes to preach. But yeah, he's like, that's kind of what Scott Frost was doing. I get it. And a little bit of defense for him, which is interesting. It was out of the blue, and I think that's where a lot of that buzz came from.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's a good job by him just as like an analyst on a those TV shows. People always talk about the talking heads, but that is a good job of just kind of explaining what happened. Obviously, like you said, he didn't say he agreed with it, but he still kind of broke it down and kind of let people know where Scott Frost is coming from. And to be honest with you, when it first happened, I did try rationalizing it at first.
There is a glaring hole there too.
There was a big hole. I mean, Northwestern was obviously very ready for it, but at the same time, I was kind of like, okay, they do have a lot of momentum, and yeah, obviously hindsight 2020, they kick it. And I say as well that was just a dumb move. But again, trying to look at it from Frost's point, Urban Meyer was exactly right. It was the checkmate. I mean, if Nebraska recovers that onside kick, the game's over, I think. I mean, or pretty close anyways. If they score, it's over.
Well,
so
you eliminate their touchdown that they scored on that drive, and then we were still at the time moving the ball, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. We go up by 18 points, however much time was left in the third. I don't know. I think we were at least halfway through the third when that happened, weren't we?
It was 9 minutes left to the third quarter when that onside kick happened.
So, we're getting down there in the game time a little bit, and they kick the onside kick. If Nebraska recovers it, I mean, they're looking pretty good. I mean, obviously it's just too risky for a Nebraska team who that's just not them. They're not some, big powerhouse that's going to go in there and kick an onside kick and just, really smash it in your mouth. They should have kicked it deep. They should have just hoped that they get a stop on Northwestern and see where the game goes from there. But we don't need to spend too much time on the onside kick because that was just kind of, sucked to talk about. One thing I do want to definitely mention here before we get going out of here is did find some game notes on UND. Their starting running back, who's probably their best offense player, Luke Skokna, is apparently missed a good chunk of fall camp and is not expected to play. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. They're going to have new running backs in there. He's also their primary punt and kick returner. And also their offensive line has 3 guys on it who will be making their first ever college starts. So that's definitely a plus for a poor Nebraska defensive line as well. But that's going to do it for me and Harrison here for the pregame show from 11 to 12. However, if you're looking for more Nebraska talk, you are in luck because right after this, we're going to have a commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we'll be ready for Tipsy Tina's, the full-blown pregame show, the Ticket Tailgate, with everybody here from the Ticket. So stick around for that. But thank you for hanging out with us for this hour. For Karter Longie and Harrison Arens, we will see you later.
At Venue Catering and Events, we offer 2 of the most historic ballrooms in Lincoln. The Jasmine Room, located in the historic Grand Manse in the heart of downtown, featuring a beautiful built-in antique bar, spacious patio, and soaring skylit ceilings. The Scottish Rite Ballroom, located just 2 blocks from the state's capital, boasts intricate hand-carved columns, rich, dark wood floors, and lavish chandeliers. The perfect venues to